Hello, and this is Thought for the Day for Saturday, the 8th of August. We're still in Psalm 119, this beautiful psalm, and if we're thinking of it in terms of sections corresponding to the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, today we're looking at letters 16 to 20 of the 22 letters of the alphabet, so we're nearly there. Here's a few verses from today's section. Ensure your servant's well-being. Do not let the arrogant oppress me. Deal with your servant according to your love, and teach me your decrees. The unfolding of your words gives light, it gives understanding to the simple. I rise before dawn and cry for help. I have put my hope in your word. As Helen told us on Wednesday, this psalm is in praise of God's law, which is known as the Torah, and almost every verse of the psalm actually mentions either the word law or another word with a similar meaning, for example, commands, precepts, statutes, word, or promises. Promises? Perhaps we don't often connect God's promises with God's laws, but here in this psalm, promises and law seem to be very much interlinked. Our focus this week on God's law got me thinking a little bit about people's attitude to the law of the land. Often laws are things we don't like or find annoying. For example, obeying the speed limit when you're in a hurry, paying taxes, or most recently, wearing a face mask in shops and other enclosed spaces. These laws are often not popular. Who actually enjoys wearing a face mask? But of course we know that as annoying as they are, they're there to protect ourselves and others, to help keep us all safe. If we live on a busy street, we're very glad of the speed limit because it makes going in and out of our house much safer. Taxes are there to help make our country fairer for all, so that we can all enjoy free healthcare and education. And although opinions seem to differ, it's currently accepted that wearing face masks helps to protect ourselves and others from the coronavirus, so we can all go about our lives more safely. The same is true of God's laws. They are there for our good. The law that God originally gave to Moses fills many chapters of the early part of the Old Testament, and a lot of it seems really strange to us. It dealt with all sorts of topics: how to worship God, how to do honest business, food hygiene, safety for women, caring for the poor, and being a good neighbour, to name a few. I expect the people of Israel didn't always find the laws convenient. For example, the rules about what could and couldn't be done on the Sabbath. But the law was there for everyone's good, so that society could function. And speaking of the Sabbath, Jesus reminded the Pharisees that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. The Sabbath laws were for the people's good. They could have a rest. Reading through today's section of the psalm, verses 121 to 160, we get the impression that the writer really does love God's law. He doesn't see God's laws as limiting, but as life-giving. In verse 127 he says, he loves God's law more than gold, more than pure gold. In verse 136 he says, streams of tears flow from my eyes, for your law is not obeyed. It really upsets him when he sees people disregarding God's law, perhaps because he knows how much they're missing out. He also knows that following God's law is the best way to live, so he can rely on God to take care of him. For example, verse 132, turn to me and have mercy on me, as you always do to those who love your name. And verse 135, make your face shine on your servant and teach me your decrees. Perhaps verse 143 resonates with us today. Trouble and distress have come upon me, but your commands give me delight. May that be true of us. May we find delight in God's commands. As Suzanne reminded us earlier in the week, Jesus summed up the law as love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength, and love your neighbour as yourself. And I'd like to finish with some words that Paul wrote in Romans chapter 13, also about our attitude to the law. After reminding his readers that they should obey the law of the land, he has this to say about the law and love. Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another, for whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. The commands, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and whatever other commands there may be, are summed up in this one command: love your neighbour as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbour. Therefore, love is the fulfilment of the law. That's what Paul said about the law. May we know God's love for us today as we fulfill his command by loving one another. Thank you.